2018 was an interesting year for gaming. It was a very mixed year of a combination of some really good games and some very disappointing ones. This video is my way of explaining my reasonings for my top 10. Remember, this is my opinion. If a game you enjoy doesn't make it on the list, that doesn't mean it's a bad game. Just in my opinion, I didn't enjoy it as much as the others. Without further ado, let's get into this list. When making this list, I struggled to think of a game to put in number 10. So I looked through my Steam library, and there was a game that I bought in early access in 2016 called We Happy Few. This game takes place in England after World War II, in a world where Germans won, leading to a dystopian-type world where citizens are forced to take a pill called Joy. Joy makes the user perceive everything nice and makes people happier. This premise alone sold me back in the game in 2016. One of my favorite game series is BioShock, of course, and the game captured BioShock-like aesthetic perfectly. In this game, you play as 3 characters that go through each character's story. The gameplay itself is a survival-type game where you collect items and craft things in an open world. This game is filled with a lot of side quests, and the main story is fun to go through. I had about 20 hours of gameplay with one character. My only problems with this game is it ran pretty poorly on release. It caused a lot of frame drops, and even when I changed the settings, the frames were inconsistent, and they were consistently below 60, or they only would go to 60 even if I was playing on ultra graphics or low graphics. They ended up fixing that later on with patches and stuff like that, but on release it was a pretty bad thing. Another flaw I had in the game was just the story was really cool. I liked parts of it, but it could have been explored more. They kind of just went over it a little bit. They didn't really go in depth as much as I loved it, but I still had a blast exploring the world and playing the game. The story could have been done better. But overall, I just fucking love this game. I'm probably a little biased due to me getting it for $20 instead of 60, due to me backing it back in 2016. But I still think this is one of the best games of this year. Oh, Quantic Dream. You're a studio I adore. From the amazing Heavy Rain to the thrilling Fahrenheit, you're an example of how to make a story-based game. Telltale should have taken notes while they were still making games. Quantic Dream's new game, Detroit Become Human, had a lot to live up to. With the previous game, Beyond Two Souls, being so the game had a lot of weight on it, and it delivered. The game takes place in a future Detroit where human-like androids are used to do everything. Yes, even what you're thinking about, you sick human being. In the game, you control 3 different androids and play through their stories. My only complaint about the game is all the choices felt like they led to a similar part in the story, but that's kind of just a problem with Quantic Dream games in general. But overall, I just love the atmosphere and a lot of the choices and the difficult moral questions that were asked with androids and stuff like that. I also just enjoyed it. Nintendo is a company that I have a love-hate relationship with. On one hand, their handling of their expansive retro game library and their super tight grips on their IP makes me dislike their practices and dislike them as a company. On the other hand, they know how to make great games. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a prime example of how to make a sequel. Most of my complaints with Smash 4 like the terrible UI and the strict downgrade from Brawl, with the removal of the single player mode, the characters who can transform, and the Ice Climbers due to the 3DS's limited hardware. I'm glad to say that Ultimate adds back a single player mode, as well as adds back the biggest roster that the series has ever seen. The gameplay is as fun as ever, with some nice additions like the ability to turn off stage hazards and make any stage battlefield or final destinations. These are all great additions that adds to the Smash formula that everybody knows and loves. Faster Than Light, or FTL, is an amazing game that helped spark my love for indie games. And now, in 2018, the creator of FTL has made a new game called Into the Breach. This is a turn-based game with a gorgeous pixel art style, where you control mechs on an 8x8 grid type map. It's kind of like pixel-based XCOM without the random bullshit in it. The battles also get very tense like XCOM. This game reminded me a lot of XCOM, which is why I really loved it. XCOM is one of my favorite game series of all time. It was my game of the year for 2016 too. XCOM 2 was. So I love XCOM, what can I say? And this game really sparks that. My only problem with the game was unlocking new squads. It just was kind of hard to do it with the achievement system and stuff like that. But other than that, I love the game. And I'm happy with my time with it. I'm glad the creator of FTL is making more games now. Okay, I'm gonna open this pic with how beautiful the game is. I don't know why, but the pixel art with the realistic lighting and shaders just makes it look beautiful. I almost bought this game just because of the art style. It's kind of like Cuphead from last year. The game, of course, I'm talking about is Octopath Traveler. This game has 8 different tales that you can play. The problem with this is just none of them seem connected, and this makes playing each one less satisfying. One of the best parts of the game, though, is its battle system. It's a turn-based battle system reminiscent of Final Fantasy. This game actually reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy. It has a lot of elements from Final Fantasy and old JRPGs. But the combo system is very in-depth, and it's very like Final Fantasy, and it really adds to the game. This game really brings back that old school JRPG style, which, of course, I love JRPGs, so this kind of just helps, too, and it makes me really just want to see more JRPGs and stuff like that. You're going to notice a lot on this list that this pixel art style really, really captivates me, just like how beautiful some pixel arts are now. And this game is no exception, my bad, about how beautiful it is. Now we get to the part where people are going to disagree with me. My 5th best game of this year is God of War. Now let me get this out of the way first. This is a good game. It made it to the top 5. But there's just some problems with this game that I just can't get over. I agree that this game probably deserves to be higher, just if we're rating everything objectively. But I just didn't enjoy this game as much as everyone else does. So let's break down things I didn't like, so I can get to praising this game. God of War was just kind of boring to me. I said it. I feel like this game drags out painfully slow at parts. And I've grown to dislike this recent trend in games where you have like these long crawled out cinematic parts where they all feel like Naughty Dog games. You know what I'm talking about. Just like the cinematic exploring the landscape. Oh, blah blah blah. Like, oh, we're walking and talking. I don't like that. It gets boring to me. I know that some people might be thinking I'm saying this because I have a problem with story-based games, but I don't. I love amazing story games. That's one of the reasons why I'm such a Quantic Dream fan. I just don't know why I couldn't get over the story. That never really made me feel super interested. I thought the combat was kind of repetitive. The enemies had a little bit too much health, causing it to feel repetitive and kind of slow at times. Like, you just had a bunch of cinematic stuff, and then the combat was boring to me. Like, you fought the same type of bosses over and over again, and none of the bosses were memorable to me. Compared to the older God of Wars, where they were super memorable. And maybe my dislike from the game comes from the fact that I love the old God of War and Devil May Cry. And that I went to this game expecting amazing combat and badass moments, and all I got was just cinematic, slow, drawn-out stories that didn't really captivate me as much. My problem with the game really just comes from the gameplay. I thought it was very not super fun, and the story I thought was decent, but I was never super into it. I never really cared about Atreus, and even the twist at the end just kind of felt like you know. I felt the enemy, they were just not memorable enemies, and I thought the game was kind of forgettable. But I have to admit, the game looks amazing, and all things I'm complaining about is still good, just not perfect. Honestly, my enjoyment would rank this lower, but since it's just such a good game, like objectively, if you look at it, it's a good game. I'm rating it higher, but I can't rate it higher than 5, because if I was rating this list based on enjoyment, it would be lower. It probably wouldn't even be in my top 10 in all honesty, but I have to put it at number 5 because it is a good game. I can see it has a good score, it has good graphics, the story is decent, and the gameplay is not bad. But my enjoyment was just not as much as everybody said it was. So that's why I'm just putting it at number 5. Rockstar Games, a company that is respected greatly in the community, has released the much anticipated Red Dead Redemption 2. This game was hyped by everyone, and I'll say it mostly led up to the hype. The game looks amazing like every AAA game nowadays. But what really pushes this game over the top is just the level of detail that Rockstar has put into this game. It's something that just has been impressing me since the start. The amount of details the devs put in is amazing. For example, one side mission, you run into a drunk and you have to tell him where his house is. If you do, you can end up following him, right? And he will end up arriving at his house, and his wife will not let him in the house until, so he passes out on the porch. Like, interactions like this are just amazing because it shows a level of care into this world that they wanted to make. That blows me away because most of the shit is not going to be seen by everybody. You actually have to go out of your way to see this, and the fact that Rockstar put in the effort to add this these little details that nobody's gonna see is just fascinating. Like horseball shrinkage, for example, too. Who the fuck looks at the horseballs? But the fact that they shrink is just a testament to how amazing the detail is. The beginning of the game does start off a little bit slow though. Like this, you're in the snowy part. It starts a little slow, but it picks up really fast. And like once you get to that train robbery scene, it's like, oh man, this is amazing. You know. My only problem is it gets a little repetitive. But that's the problem with Rockstar games in general, and that could just be a whole new story. But anyway, it delivers. It's basically Old West GTA with a good story. So it's a great game. I would recommend it. When you get down to it, making a platformer in 2018 is fucking insane. You're making a game for a genre that is not popular anymore, is oversaturated, and you have to compete with games like Super Mario Brothers 2, baby. Best game of the year. Alright, that was a donkey reference. In all seriousness, no. Making a popular platformer is hard, and with the market so inflated, it's so hard to come up with unique ideas for platformers. Because everybody wants to make a platformer. Platformers are so popular. But they're not popular anymore. They're just inflated now. But somehow Celeste does everything right. It's a beautiful game. It just shows everything about indie games. The game is fucking gorgeous with the pixel art aesthetic that makes the game look unique yet very similar. It taps into this nostalgia of older platformers. Again, here it is with the pixel art aesthetic making me happy. The gameplay is very unique though, with a lot of cool ideas as well. With its tight controls leaving you very satisfied. Like, when you die, it's your fault. It's not the game's fault. You can pick up this game and you already know what to do. It's a platformer that captures this nostalgia of old Mario games, yet it introduces all these new ideas. This game really did reinvent my love for platformers, and it makes me just want more platformers, you know? So this game is just amazing. It deserves everything, and it's an indie game too, which is another plus. Let's take two of my favorite game genres and mash them together. And what do we get? We get motherfucking Dead Cells, baby. Woohoo! I fucking love this game. I love both roguelikes and Metroidvanias. So when you mash them together, it creates this unique game with combat like Castlevania, with the randomness and just the overall chaos of Binding of Isaac. This is one of these games where you can pick up, where you are like, why didn't something like this come sooner? I might be a little biased on this pick due to my love of roguelikes, but this is a game where you can just pick up and play and put down whenever. It's not a time commitment like a lot of story-based games nowadays, and that's great. It's mindless fun, but it's not mindless enough that there is no skill involved in the game. If you put your mind to the game, you can pull off so many skillful maneuvers with things like parrying, blocking. There's just so many things, memorizing like patterns, dodging stuff. Overall, this game is just fucking amazing. It's a little hard, and it has a lot of randomness due to it being a roguelike, but the combat is very fluid. It feels very fair despite it being a roguelike, which is really something that roguelikes need to have. And overall, I just fucking love this game. Number one, well, one of the scariest things to me is the unknown that comes with space and the ocean. Just this massive area that we know so little about is terrifying yet fascinating to me. And the game Subnautica really captures this. and it's fucking amazing.
Suffered orbital hull failure. Cause unknown. 0 human life signs detected.
Nope. Oh no, we're going back out. Subnautica finally got its full release this year, and man, this game is great. This is a survival game that takes place in the ocean. Normally I'm not a big fan of survival games. I think they're kind of bland and they all feel the same. But this game just lured me in with its setting alone. Exploring an unknown alien ocean with brand new creatures has you on the edge of your seat. This is a game that does horror right. And it's not even a horror game. While playing the game, you feel immersed as you explore dark caves, new biomes, and see creatures you've never seen before. You feel like you're actually exploring these things. And it's terrifying. This game captures that fear of what could be out there. You know, you enter a new area or biome and you experience the fright because you don't know what is lurking around. You have this experience of dread as new creatures, or you hear these sounds and then a big fucking massive creature comes at you. I also had this dread near the end of the game too, with things like outside of the crater or the void, this big empty dark area where you're like, there has to be something out there. It's the end of the world, so you're not supposed to be out there, and it summons some hostile creatures to kill you when you're out there. But you just want to go out there and see what's out there. But then at the same time, you've experienced this dread, like, what could be out there, you know? And I've basically seen all these creatures, and yet I was still scared of, like, a big creature being there. Like, what if there is something bigger out there, you know? And this game just captures all of that perfectly, and I love it. The survival in itself is good too. It's another good survival game with a lot of interesting features in it. But just the fact that you get to explore and experience this fright just makes me love this game. It really has me excited for the DLC, which is supposed to be like a Frozen type thing, and I'm really interested to see if they're going to, what type of creatures they're going to make, and is there going to be a creature that is huge. The biggest creature in the game is not hostile though. That's kind of like let down too, because you're like, I wish there was more. Like when you look into the game's code, there's not more, but you still feel like there could be more too, which is a plus. But then when you learn that there's nothing more, it kind of feels like you want more. But that's really not a flaw with the game. It's more just how the game is so good that you want to see more. So, yeah. I love Subnautica. I'm really excited for the release. This game is great.